The sun dips low through the cafe's glass walls, painting everything in the soft amber glow of curated perfection. Lila Hart sits near the window, her phone propped against a designer purse, lips glossed, smile rehearsed. She isn't here for coffee. She's here for content. Naomi adjusts the camera, silent, uneasy. Mateo approaches with quiet composure, holding a tray that trembles slightly under the weight of steaming cup. "Here's your oat milk latte," he says, his voice polite but weary. Lila's gaze lingers on his scuffed shoes, and that's when the spark of cruelty catches fire. She flips on her influencer voice. "Guys, look," she laughs, gesturing toward him. "My waiter's shoes have seen better days. Should I start a GoFundMe?" Her tone drips with condescension, and Naomi's heart sinks behind the lens. Mateo freezes, forcing a thin smile as the cafe goes uncomfortably quiet. The camera keeps rolling. Lila thinks she's made a viral moment. She doesn't yet see the reflection of her own fall shimmering in the screen. A downfall that will be written not in captions, but in consequence. Lila scrolls through filters, tapping between contrast tones and caption ideas, like she's crafting art, not cruelty. Naomi stands nearby, arms folded, the air between them thick with unspoken guilt. "You sure you want to post that?" Naomi asks softly. Lila smirks, not looking up. "Relax. It's just a joke." People love authenticity. The video uploads with a single tap. A heartbeat later, likes begin to roll in. The dopamine rush she's built her world around. She laughs, spinning the phone in her manicured fingers, basking in the illusion of applause. Outside, the city hums beneath neon twilight, oblivious to the digital storm forming in silence. In the corner of the cafe, Mateo collects empty cups, unaware of the tiny seed planted, one that will grow into something vast and uncontrollable. His reflection in the window shimmers beside hers, one face fading into the other. Two worlds divided by privilege, soon colliding under the weight of millions of watching eyes. By nightfall, the internet has already begun to feed. At first, it's laughter. Emojis and comments praising Lila's savage humor. Then the tone shifts. A retweet from a verified account. A duetted video by a young woman crying, defending the waiter. The clip spreads like spilled ink, staining every feed. Lila lies in bed, silk robe draped carelessly, scrolling through the surge. "They just don't get it," she whispers, forcing a smile. But her mentions burn. Words like cruel, entitled, heartless pierce through her curated calm. Naomi's message pops up. "Lila, you need to take it down." Across the city, Mateo's phone vibrates on his bedside table. He opens it to find strangers writing, "You deserve better." He blinks, stunned. His face on 100 screens, his pain now public property. Outside his small apartment window, Los Angeles glows indifferent as fame and shame blur into one. By morning, Lila's inbox is fire. Brand partners have withdrawn. Her management sends a cold email about reputational risk. Outside her apartment, paparazzi camp beneath the awning, shouting questions through flashing bulbs. She stares at her reflection in the mirror. Still flawless, still smiling, yet unrecognizable. Naomi arrives quietly, a soft knock at the door. "I warned you," she says gently, eyes filled with sorrow, not judgment. Lila's voice cracks for the first time. "I didn't mean to hurt him." The confession hangs between them, too late, too thin. Somewhere across town, Mateo pours coffee for a new table, his posture steady, though his world has shifted. Customers recognize him now, whispers of kindness and pity following him like perfume. Fame, he realizes, is not freedom. It's exposure. 2 days later, Lila's video is on every news channel. Commentators dissect her tone, her privilege, her silence. Ethan Cole, a journalist with a reputation for moral storytelling, uploads a piece titled, When kindness goes viral, it opens not with Lila's cruelty, but with Mateo's grace. Clips show him refusing donations, asking people instead to support local charities. "I don't want sympathy," he says into the camera. "I just want respect." His quiet dignity moves millions. Lila watches the interview in silence, tears catching in her throat. Her phone vibrates again, not with likes but with emptiness. She scrolls through her own feed. Sponsors gone, followers lost, comments turned venomous. For the first time, she puts the phone down. The camera lens that once adored her now feels like an open wound. The influencer has gone viral, but not for what she imagined. Morning sunlight spills across Lila's once pristine living room, now littered with unopened packages and wilting flowers from forgotten brand deals. She scrolls, trembling. Every notification burns like a wound. Her followers, the same voices that once praised her, now curse her name. Naomi's number flashes on her screen unanswered. The words, #cancelilahart, flood every corner of the internet. She opens one video after another, people stitching her post, mocking her laughter, replaying Mateo's discomfort on loop. Across the city, Mateo stares at a growing line outside the cafe. Strangers approach him with cameras, asking for comments, sympathy, selfies. His quiet life has become a headline. As he wipes a table, he overhears two women whisper, "He is the waiter from that video." The words make him flinch. Fame, he realizes, is its own kind of cruelty. Naomi can't sleep. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees Mateo's hurt expression frozen on her viewfinder. She replays the moment she could have stopped recording. The moment she didn't. She visits Mateo's cafe, hesitant, guilt heavy in her chest. When he sees her, recognition flickers. Not anger, but quiet confusion. "You were with her," he says softly. Naomi nods, tears threatening. "I filmed it. I'm so sorry." Mateo exhales slowly, wiping his hands on his apron. "You didn't make her mock me, but you didn't stop her either." His words are not cruel, just true. Naomi lowers her gaze, feeling the weight of every unspoken apology. Somewhere inside, she vows to make it right, not through posts or statements, but through action. Ethan Cole sits in his modest studio, editing footage for his new exposé. His narration overlays clips of Lila's video, then transitions to Mateo's life. The long hours, the unseen effort, the humanity stripped bare by a viral joke. Sometimes, Ethan says, the internet punishes cruelty by amplifying the kind. He reaches out to Mateo for an interview, who reluctantly agrees. Under soft lights, Mateo speaks simply, "I don't hate her. I just hope she learns that people aren't props." The clip explodes across social media, this time for all the right reasons. Lila watches from her couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes red. Ethan's voice echoes from the TV, calm but piercing. Her own laughter from the cafe replays one last time before cutting to Mateo's quiet smile. It's unbearable. Not because of the world's judgment, but because she finally sees herself through his eyes. The apartment grows darker with every passing day. Curtains drawn, mirrors covered. Lila paces barefoot, the silence interrupted only by the occasional ping of another brand, cutting ties. She replays her old videos, luxury unboxings, beauty tutorials, flawless smiles, each one now feeling like a lie told to herself. Naomi visits again. "You can fix this, but not online," she says. Lila bitterly, "I built my whole life online." Naomi shakes her head. "Then maybe it's time to build something real." The words linger like sunlight through cracked blinds. For the first time, Lila doesn't look at her phone. She looks out the window, at people walking, laughing, living, and wonders when she stopped being human. The next morning, a quiet resolve replaces panic. Lila slips on plain clothes, jeans, a sweater, and ties her hair back. No makeup, no lenses, no filters. She opens her laptop, not to film, but to delete. One by one, her old videos vanish. Each click feels like shedding skin. She drafts a message to Matteo. Not a PR statement, not an apology written for sympathy, just truth. I hurt you. I was wrong. I'd like to meet and say it in person if you'll let me. She hovers over send, heart pounding, then finally presses it. Across town, Matteo reads the message between cafe orders. His jaw tightens, not with anger, but with thought. After a long breath, he types back 2 words. Come tomorrow. The story has shifted. The world may not forgive her yet, but for the first time, Lila is ready to face it. The morning hum of Los Angeles feels different today, quieter, more deliberate. Lila walks with purpose, her reflection flickering across cafe windows she used to pass without noticing. No camera follows her this time. No lenses, no hashtags, no applause, just the weight of what must be said. Inside, Matteo wipes a counter, his movements calm but cautious. When Lila steps in, a hush ripples through the small crowd. He looks up, their eyes meeting for the first time since that day. She looks smaller somehow, not in stature, but in presence. I came to apologize, she says softly, voice trembling. He nods once, gestures toward a booth by the window. The same light that once framed cruelty now falls gently between them. Outside, the world races on. Inside, time slows to a fragile stillness. They sit opposite each other, the hum of the espresso machine filling the silence where words fail. Lila's fingers twist around a coffee cup she hasn't touched. I thought everything I said online was harmless, she begins, but I used your kindness as a punchline. Matteo listens quietly, eyes steady. You didn't see me that day, he replies. You saw a character in your story, but I was real, even when you didn't notice. Tears gather in Lila's eyes, though she doesn't let them fall. I deserve what's happening to me, she whispers. Matteo shakes his head. No one deserves hate, but accountability, that's something else. His words land softly, yet with the weight of grace. For a long while, they sit in silence, listening to the cafe's rhythm. Spoons clinking, doors opening, lives continuing. Lila glances at the table beside them, recognizing the same spot where she once mocked him. The irony burns deep. She breaks the quiet, the comments, the hate. I thought it was punishment, but now I see its reflection. I became what I always feared, irrelevant. Matteo shakes his head. Relevance fades. Respect doesn't. The words settle like dust on sunlight. For the first time, she smiles. Small, uncertain, but real. I wish I'd known you then, she says softly. He smiles back, weary but kind. You wouldn't have seen me. The door chimes, and Naomi steps inside, camera slung across her shoulder. But this time, it's off. She hesitates when she sees them together. Matteo gives a nod, and Lila gestures for her to sit. For the first time, there's no tension, only understanding. Naomi speaks quietly. I kept the footage on my hard drive. I couldn't bring myself to delete it. Lila nods. Maybe you should. Maybe people need to remember what it cost. Matteo looks between them, thoughtful. Then show what came after, he says. Not the cruelty, the change. Naomi meets his gaze, realizing the story isn't over. It's transformed. The camera will roll again. But this time, it won't capture vanity. It will capture truth. The meeting ends not with grand gestures, but quiet truth. Lila stands to leave, her heart lighter yet heavy with gratitude. Thank you for meeting me, she says. Matteo nods, wiping the counter. Everyone deserves a chance to be better. As she steps out into the sunlight, the air feels different, clean, unfiltered. Naomi catches up beside her. You think people will forgive you? Lila exhales slowly. Maybe not, but I'm starting to forgive myself. Behind the cafe window, Mateo watches them go. For a brief moment, their reflections align in the glass. The past, the pain, and the possibility of grace before sunlight erases them into brightness. The internet doesn't forget. It only shifts its hunger. Lila's name still trends, now less with outrage, more with analysis. Commentators debate whether her apology was real or rehearsed. Brands distance themselves politely, while others secretly reach out, sensing an opportunity in her downfall. Lila ignores them all. For the first time in years, she's a fly. She walks the streets of Los Angeles unnoticed. No filters, no cameras. She hears snippets of conversation in cafes, people still arguing about her. But it feels distant, like they're talking about someone else entirely. She glances at a billboard once featuring her face, now replaced by a new influencer selling the same illusion. Instead of pain, she feels relief. The spotlight has shifted, and in its absence, she finally sees the world around her clearly. It starts small. Naomi tells her about a community center downtown that runs a meal program for the homeless. Lila hesitates, unsure if showing up will be seen as performative, but she goes anyway. The kitchen hums with quiet rhythm, knives on cutting boards, laughter echoing off tiled walls. Mateo is there, sleeves rolled up, hair damp with steam. When he sees her, there's no shock, only a small nod. She ties an apron and joins the line, awkward, but determined. As she serves food to strangers, she feels something shift. No cameras, no validation. Only gratitude, the kind that needs no witness. She looks at Mateo ladling soup beside her and realizes redemption isn't about being forgiven. It's about becoming useful again. Later that evening, Lila returns home exhausted, the good kind of tired that feels earned. She stands before her mirror, the same one she once used to perfect every angle. The reflection feels foreign. No contour, no gloss, just her. For a long moment, she studies the face looking back. Not the influencer, not the villain, but a woman rebuilding herself. The ring light sits in the corner, unplugged and dust-covered. She walks over, coils the cord, and sets it in a drawer. The silence afterward feels like peace. Her phone buzzes with hundreds of unread messages, but she doesn't reach for it. Instead, she sits by the window, watching the city lights flicker, their glow less like fame and more like forgiveness. Ethan Cole uploads a follow-up video titled, After the Fall. The footage shows Lila volunteering. Not staged, captured quietly by Naomi from a distance. The narration speaks not of scandal, but of humanity rediscovered. Maybe, Ethan says, what we call cancellation is just the world asking us to grow up. The video goes viral again, but this time, differently. The tone is gentler, reflective. Comments fill with empathy, some with apology. She's trying, one reads. Maybe we all should. Lila watches the video once, then closes her laptop. There's no triumph in it, no pride, just quiet acceptance. The same internet that tore her down has finally stopped shouting. For the first time in months, the silence feels deserved. Weeks later, Lila returns to the cafe. The place feels smaller now, not because it's changed, but because she finally sees it as it is. Mateo wipes a table, looks up, and smiles. No tension, no awkwardness, just quiet friendship. They sit together over coffee, no cameras, no agenda. Funny, Lila says, smiling faintly, how something cruel turned into something kind. Mateo chuckles. Maybe that's how the world balances itself. As they talk, Naomi enters, holding her camera, not to film, but to photograph the cafe's warmth. Outside, the city hums under the gold of early evening, and for the first time, the light belongs to all of them. The world has moved on, as it always does. The headlines fade, The outrage cools. For the first time in years, Lila lives without being seen. Her mornings begin with quiet, coffee, sunlight, and no need to post about either. She scrolls through her empty profile. Every old video is gone. In their place, one post remains, a black screen with the words, "Learning to listen." No comments, no hashtags, just silence. Naomi visits sometimes, dropping off homemade food, their friendship rekindled, not through work but through shared humanity. Mateo texts once in a while, updates about his mother, about the shelter. His words are short, warm, grounding. And through it all, Lila learns the simplest truth. You don't rebuild a reputation, you rebuild a heart. One afternoon, Naomi brings her old camera. "You should film again," she says gently. Lila laughs, shaking her head. "The world's had enough of my voice." Naomi smiles. "Then don't use it to talk. Use it to show." They walk through the city. Street musicians, food, vendors, kids playing in alleys. Stories that don't trend but deserve to. Behind the lens, Lila's gaze soft. She films not to be seen but to see. By evening, her footage tells stories of ordinary people. The hands that serve, the faces that endure, the laughter that survives. For the first time, her camera becomes a window, not a mirror. Weeks later, Lila uploads a new video, her first since the scandal. It begins with silence, then fades into images of the city's unnoticed corners. Shelter kitchens, park benches, dim-lit diners. Her voiceover is soft, steady. "This isn't about me anymore. It's about what I never saw when I was too busy being seen." The comments arrive, cautious at first, then warm. People recognize the shift. It isn't the polished, performative Lila they remember. It's someone raw, human, humble. Her channel grows again, but differently. This time she shares stories of others, the quiet heroes she once overlooked. And for the first time, the internet listens without shouting. Months later, Ethan Cole invites her for an interview. Not about the scandal, but about storytelling. "You disappeared when the world expected you to defend yourself," he says on air. "Why?" Lila smiles faintly. "Because sometimes silence speaks better than any post." Ethan nods, impressed. "And now?" She glances toward Naomi in the audience, then Mateo watching from a small screen backstage. "Now I just want to give the camera back to the people who deserve it." The audience applauds softly, not for a comeback, but for a transformation. When she leaves the studio, there are no paparazzi, no flashes. Only the sun setting gently over the skyline, gold spilling through the quiet streets like grace. One evening, Lila returns to the cafe where it all began. The golden hour light spills across familiar tables. Mateo stands behind the counter, wiping glasses, smiling as she approaches. "You still filming?" he asks. "Sometimes," she replies, smiling back. "But not for followers. For memory." They sit together again, sharing quiet conversation. Naomi joins, camera resting, unused on the table. Outside, the city hums, alive and forgiving. Lila gazes out the window, the same window where her downfall began, and realizes that maybe the world doesn't destroy us to punish us. It breaks us open so light can find a way in. Dawn breaks over Los Angeles, soft and forgiving. The skyline glows pale gold as the city stirs awake. Lila walks through downtown with her small camera slung across her shoulder. Not the expensive kind, just the one she trusts. She stops to film a street artist painting on a cracked wall, his colors spilling over broken bricks like hope reclaiming space. Her narration, calm, thoughtful, overlays the scene. "A year ago, I filmed someone's pain and called it humor. Today, I film people's strength and call it truth." Behind the camera, her hands are steady. There's no trembling from fear anymore, just intention. The world hasn't forgotten what she did, but it's starting to remember what she's become. Naomi sits across from Lila in a cozy office filled with memory cards and notebooks. "You've filmed so many stories," Naomi says. "What now?" Lila smiles. "I think it's time to give them the platform I once took for granted." They launch the Voices Project, a digital series spotlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Janitors who mentor teens, single mothers running food drives, elderly artists painting hope into forgotten corners. Matteo volunteers to help, writing small essays to accompany the films. Within weeks, the series takes off. Not because it's viral, but because it's honest. Each episode ends the same way. Everyone has a story. Some just need to be heard. One afternoon, Naomi suggests they feature Matteo himself. He laughs it off, modest as ever. But Lila insists. "You were the story that changed mine. People should know who you really are." They film him in the shelter kitchen, sleeves rolled, ladling soup with practiced ease. His narration plays over the footage. "I didn't want revenge. I wanted to remind people that kindness isn't weakness." The episode airs. It's quiet, moving, and unpretentious. A story of dignity, not victimhood. The comments overflow with gratitude. For once, the internet unites not in anger, but in awe. And as the screen fades to black, Lila's name doesn't trend. Matteo's does. She smiles, content. Months later, Lila receives an email. The Voices Project has been nominated for a Humanitarian Media Award. Naomi cheers. Matteo grins. But Lila only smiles quietly. "It's not about us," she says. "It's about the people we filmed." At the ceremony, flashbulbs pop, familiar chaos, but it doesn't shake her anymore. On stage, she speaks softly. "A year ago, I thought the world ended when I lost its approval, but maybe we only find our purpose after we stop chasing applause." The audience rises. Applause echoing. Not thunderous, but genuine. As the lights dim, Lila steps off the stage, Matteo waiting with a proud nod, Naomi with tears in her eyes. For once, the camera flashes don't blind her. They illuminate her. Later that night, Lila stands alone on the rooftop above the city. The award sits on the ledge beside her, unpolished, imperfect, real. She looks out at the skyline, the same city that once watched her rise, fall, and rise again. She closes her eyes and breathes deeply. The sounds of traffic, laughter, sirens, the pulse of life, all weave together like a song she finally understands. She takes her camera, lifts it to the horizon, and begins to film the dawn breaking. Her voiceover is gentle, final. Redemption isn't a destination. It's a direction. Every day we choose which way to walk, toward ourselves or away. The frame fades to gold, light spilling over the city that forgave her. The camera capturing not her image, but her growth. The cafe hasn't changed much. Same golden light, same hum of conversation, but everything about Lila has. She sits by the window, editing footage for the next episode of the Voices Project. The barista greets her by name. No one whispers anymore. She's just Lila now. Not a brand, not a scandal, not a symbol. Matteo walks over, placing her coffee gently on the table. "You've been here every morning this week," he says, smiling. "You'd think you work here." She grins. "Maybe I just like the company." Their laughter blends with the clink of mugs and distant street noise. It's ordinary, unremarkable, and perfect. The kind of peace that doesn't announce itself. It just arrives quietly, like forgiveness that finally took root. One afternoon, Lila receives an email from a young woman named Avery, a 20-year-old film student who writes, "I grew up watching your videos. You made me want to tell stories. But I also learned from your mistakes. Thank you for showing that people can change." Something in the message hits deep. Lila replies, inviting her to visit the studio. When Avery arrives, eager, nervous, camera bag slung across her shoulder, Lila sees a reflection, of who she once was. Hungry for attention, brimming with possibility. Instead of teaching her how to perform, Lila teaches her how to listen. "Your camera isn't a mirror," she says. "It's a bridge." Avery nods, eyes shining. The cycle has shifted, not repeating, but renewing. Months later, Avery posts her first documentary. A short film about a janitor who writes poetry on his lunch breaks. It's raw, heartfelt, and human. Within days, it begins to spread, not as a trend, but as a whisper of beauty people didn't know they needed. Lila watches the video alone in her apartment, tears rising quiet. She recognizes the tone, the compassion, the steady gaze, her influence, but reimagined. She doesn't share it. She doesn't comment. She just smiles, proud in silence. The legacy isn't a name remembered. It's a value passed on. Late one evening, Lila opens a blank document on her computer and begins to type a letter, not to anyone else, but to her younger self. You thought attention meant love. You thought cruelty meant confidence. You were wrong. But that's okay. You had to fall to learn where the ground was. She pauses, fingers trembling slightly. You will lose everything. And that will save you. One day you'll use your voice for something that doesn't echo but endures. She signs it simply, Lila Hart, the woman who learned to listen. Then she closes the laptop and exhales, smiling through tears. Some stories don't end, they mature. Months later, The Voices project celebrates its third year. Mateo helps organize a community screening downtown, an open-air event beneath string lights, surrounded by laughter, food trucks, and music. Lila sits in the back, letting the stories play without stepping into the spotlight. The final film of the night ends on a single quote. "Kindness, when filmed, is still kindness. If it's real." The crowd applauds, some standing, some crying. Naomi turns to her, smiling. "You did it." Lila shakes her head gently. "No, we did." The camera pans to the sky, thousands of tiny lights reflecting in her eyes. For the first time, she isn't performing, she's present. The story that began with cruelty ends in compassion, not as a lesson, but as a light.